One of the things that I've always found interesting when it comes to this discourse about men's mental health and the negative effects of men in society dealing with isolation, loneliness, lack of confidence, emasculation, etc., has been women bringing up the topic to use it as an opportunity to belittle men based on their own negative experiences, like maybe with an ex-boyfriend or something. But I think another issue, which doesn't seem to be highlighted as much, is the men who, seemingly through some kind of fetishization of women and self-hatred, have decided to denounce their own manhood and call themselves women. The male-to-female transgenders, which make up the vast majority of the transgender community, as well as a minority of the ones who detransition. Usually the ones who detransition are the female-to-male ones. And I think that these transgenders actually end up giving a lot of insight into the way these things actually work, the gender dynamics between men and women. Because the female-to-male transgenders really don't have anything to gain. They're not really invited into men's circles, and they're not really invited into women's circles either. Whereas the male-to-female transgenders, the vast majority of them, are invited into the community by the LGBT and their allies, and celebrated as real women and try to get into every space they can, including women's sports, and they actually feel like they're getting something more out of the experience of pretending to be women, which is why they detransition less. I do absolutely believe that transgenderism is a mental illness, and that's pretty much undeniably so, and if we're talking about men's mental health, then it is interesting that so many males are trying to transition into being female, which is not something that's actually possible, but they're doing their best to pass as a woman. And one such case is this person who I see a lot on Twitter, named NyaraVT. Now, this is a person who is a male to female transgender, and he's somebody who is always getting into arguments and debates with people who are more conservative, or just generally don't support the transgender movement, even if they're not really conservative, like the people that they call TERFs, trans exclusionary radical feminists. But I think that it's very interesting that just going onto his Twitter account and searching by men gives me a list of pretty anti-man tweets that literally follow the same pattern that you would see from women talking about men's issues, which is just, it's actually men's fault and it's completely self-inflicted. Let's go over a few of these tweets. From November 1st, now that it's November, quick reminder that pick-me VTubers saying men's mental health matters while exploiting lonely men and claiming all their problems are caused by feminism isn't actually fixing men's mental health issues, it's actively exploiting them. This is a hilarious tweet. First of all, it's coming from a man. Let's just establish that before anything else. This is a man who has decided that he does not want to be a man anymore. He's actually a woman now. So that in itself is a testament to the need for men's mental health right here. But what he decides to highlight here is very interesting. He says, pick me VTubers, and if you know, pick me is a phrase that's mostly only said by women to try to talk down women who make an attempt to appeal to men. So pick me VTubers are exploiting men by claiming all of their problems are caused by feminism. Well, I don't think that's what's going on at all. Obviously, you had a lot of VTubers who were just saying, hey men, you matter. Don't listen to all the people that are constantly spreading hate about you online, which you see that a lot, especially if you're on platforms like TikTok or even Twitter, where there's so many opinions that are just men bad and anything that's wrong with men is their fault. Men are lonely, it's their fault. They're not well adjusted into society and they don't know how to act. Women, though, they're good people. That's why women aren't lonely, because they're better people than men are. This is the sentiment that you see just by being on the internet. You don't even have to search for it, but if you do, you'll find loads of posts like that, and typically with many people agreeing, hundreds of thousands of likes just on your average man bad post. And I think it's pretty clear that men are feeling this. Young men especially are more dejected, they're more recluse, they're not going out on dates as much. But NyaraVT here, somebody who transitioned to try to be a woman because he hated being a man that much, is trying to say that the actual problem here is pick-me girls that highlight men's mental health. Here's another tweet by Nyara. If you want to do something for men's mental health, then tell your male audience that it's okay to have emotions other than anger, to stop feeling entitled to a woman's attention and body, but working on themselves and socializing not for sex, but to have a real human connection. It's really insane to see how much this kind of narrative is normalized, especially from somebody who is literally a man himself and should know that this isn't true, but again, the mental illness in play here. I'm going to say something that may be controversial to a person like this, but men do not feel that they're entitled to women's bodies or to their attention, but obviously men do want to get into relationships. At least a lot of men would rather, I imagine, get married and have children. They'd rather be in a relationship that's healthy and have a family. That's something that a lot of people want to do. People do want to find love, but it's just that their concerns and their feelings are minimalized, and they're told that they're basically just sex pests. The only thing that they're aiming for is sex, and they have ulterior motives whenever they go for a woman, or that when they do get into a relationship that they don't treat the woman well enough, or they're too controlling bullying and things like that. But mostly I see a lot of men being sidelined because apparently their stats aren't good enough to get the average woman today. I mean, there's not really a laundry list when it comes to men's requirements for a girlfriend. Somebody that they think looks pretty and that loves them, and that's pretty much it. Maybe shorter than them, but I don't think that would be a requirement for a lot of guys. They definitely don't really care about the woman's career or how much money she's making, I can say that for sure. And yet it still seems to be a hard thing for them to do because of inflated expectations in dating now, especially when it comes to the economic factors. Like, a lot of men are not making enough money to be making way more money than the woman so that they can actually impress them and end up dating them. That's one of the main real factors if we're talking about what leads to men not being able to get in these relationships, is they're just not making enough money to be able to take care of this woman, and the women have this like idea that they don't need men at all. It's not misogyny and men's only emotion being anger or anything like that. It's just genuinely difficult for these men to try to court the woman, and they don't actually have to go through that experience because they are waiting for the men to come to them. Here's 2 more tweets by Nyara, really a coal mine filled with terrible takes. Misogyny is what happens when society views femininity as inherently lesser. Misandry is what happens when men exploit this artificially created power imbalance and take advantage of young girls, women, and anyone GNC without consequences. It is a side effect of the patriarchy. Reminder that the reason why men don't report SA is because of the patriarchy. If a woman abuses a man, then it's like, nah, women can't do that because they're weak, or she's hot so stop complaining. If a man abuses a man, then it's like, you're probably gay and liked it. Just a couple more takes that are so brain dead that I'd like to believe they're rage bait, but it's not. This is what this guy actually believes. Once again, following the trend that anything that negatively affects men is men's fault, but anything that negatively affects women is also men's fault. If you talk about men not reporting sexual assault, then it has to do with the patriarchy. As if there's not many women who have looked at men complaining about sexual assault and harassment towards men and said, don't make a big deal out of this, or you're being sassy. We literally just saw as 2 streamers, Nina Lynn and Zoe Spencer, sexually assaulted a man who was an assistant for FaZe Clan on camera. This happened on stream over on Twitch. And then Nina Lynn had another video come out, a clip from a stream that happened before that one, where she had sexually assaulted another guy during a different Twitch stream. Matter of fact, when this happened, Asmongold was one of the most outspoken people trying to get Nina Lynn permanently banned for obviously sexually assaulting people on camera.
It's unbelievable. I don't know what they're doing over there at all. Yeah, ask the CEO of Twitch. I mean, I would love to hear Dan give an explanation for why you've unbanned someone who's committed sexual assault live on camera 2 times.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember NyaraVT ever speaking up about this to denounce Nina Lynn, a woman, for sexually assaulting 2 different men on 2 different occasions on stream. Not just on a stream, but on twitch.tv, the 13+ gaming broadcasting platform. At least that's what it used to be about. And as I'm sure all of you watching this will be shocked to find out, NyaraVT is pro-grooming kids into the transgender cult. In this post saying, trans men are men, trans women are women, non-binary people are valid, trans kids exist. Transitioning is difficult because society is being conditioned to hate us, but you're not alone. You're valid, deserve to be loved, and you make the world a better place. Well, I'm going to have to disagree with every single one of these points and make the counterpoint that you should stay away from children, but I also wanted to say that society is not being conditioned to hate transgenders. It's actually the opposite. Society is being conditioned to normalize transgenders when everybody knows that a man is a man and can never go from being a man to being a woman, and a woman can't go from being a woman to being a man. This is just mental illness, and you're actually being forced in society to comply with it. I mean, this isn't hatred of these people. I don't hate these people. I just know that they are mentally ill. If you want to call yourself a woman when you're a man, you can do that, but you're not actually going to become a woman, and nobody should have to play along with your game where you pretend that you're something that you're not. And anybody can tell. Anybody can see the difference. The shoulders, the Adam's apple, the facial structure, the hips, and how the pelvis is more narrow for a man. Like everything like that. It's very obvious. Most times when you actually see a transgender, you can immediately tell that they are a transgender. And even if they manage to pass more than others, it doesn't make them the gender that they're trying to be. We live in a society today where you're called a bigot for pointing this out, and you can even get fired from your job for denying that a man in a dress is actually a woman. Nobody has to be conditioned to dislike these people, especially when they're going after children and trying to normalize a next generation of mentally ill kids, saying that they are the opposite gender. And when you attempt to penalize people who don't play along with your games and calling you the pronouns that you want to be called rather than the ones that would naturally assign to you, something that kids are taught in elementary school, and it becomes very obvious pretty quickly that the resentment is coming from people being forced to play along with your fantasies. And I think whenever this insanely woke era of humanity ends, we're going to look back and think that it's insane that we ever did this to begin with. Here's one last tweet from NyaraVT, the transgender that abandoned his manhood because he thought it would be a much better life to live as a woman, saw really no benefits to being a man, and enjoys LARPing as a woman. That's how bad it is. It's not just a testament to the need to address men's mental health issues, but it also highlights how bad things have gotten for men in this era where so many of them are trying to abandon being men so that they can try to be women because they see it as a preferable way of living life. Even if they have to take hormones, do voice training to try to sound more feminine, and even mutilate their body to achieve that. His message reads, "Dear men, you deserve love, but you will never find it if you listen to red pill podcasters. The manosphere is designed to keep you trapped, isolated, and miserable to exploit you further. Feminism is not the reason you're struggling. Hating women is not going to fix your problems. A relationship is not beneficial if you don't enjoy spending time with your partner. Finding role models and supportive communities that teach you how to be emotionally intelligent, that it's okay to be vulnerable, and that you don't have to bottle everything up because you're a man and emotions are gay. Don't listen to miserable guys who not only don't believe what they're preaching, but their lives are contradictory to their traditional values. Watch out for people who exploit your worries and desires for love and affection. Watch out for people who offer you scapegoats instead of solutions. Watch out for people who coddle you for monetary gain. And yes, women can reinforce gender norms and patriarchal stereotypes as well. You're worthy of love, but you also need to learn how to understand your emotions to communicate and socialize properly. Find a community that actually wants to help you understand yourself and the societal problems that cause so many of your struggles. Leave these woman-hating incel spaces to actually break free from the matrix. Just a terrible post all around, basically trying to paint the picture that actually these men are struggling in life because of misogyny. This guy believes that misandry is not a real issue and misogyny is. Red pill incel podcasters are the reason why these guys are doing poorly in life. Mind you, this is a mentally ill man who is doing everything to try to pass off as a woman, even though he will never be a woman, who is clearly a misandrist, a male misandrist, taking the position that anything bad that's happening with men is actually men's fault. And in attempting to give relationship advice, I can't help but see the irony that NyaraVT is somebody who does not have a significant other as far as I know. He's an unmarried man with no children, and I expect that things are going to stay that way for the rest of his life, and he's not exactly a role model for what a man should be trying to follow if he wants to be successful, especially when it comes to getting married and having a family. I mean, once again, this guy said nothing about Nina Lynn sexually assaulting two different men at two different occasions on stream on Twitch TV, yet he felt the need to speak out about too many VTubers talking about men's mental health and telling them that they matter. It can't be misinterpreted that this is a mentally ill man who decided that he wanted to become a woman and he wants to groom children to join the cult, and every take that he has is going to be shaming men and talking about the patriarchy while literally being a man himself. And any time that a person says something that explores the grievances of men, he has to step in and say why it's misogynistic. We know what this guy's position is, and people are getting tired of stuff like this. There is a truth, and it is that in society today, men are being appreciated less and less, emasculated more, and told that they do not matter and that they don't really have much value and women don't need them. And men who are supposed to be the assertive ones who go and approach the woman and start relationships and build families are not doing that as much as they used to, and it spells the end of society. And we can see it happening in countries like South Korea and Japan before it has really gotten to that level in the West. But for all the men out there, understand that you do matter, your value is immense, and tell your friends that you love them too. Don't get blackpilled by all of this because as crazy as it does look, understand that most of it exists on the internet. Well, that's all I had to say for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.